Hi, I'm Lindsay from Shreve Memorial Library and welcome to Art Club. This week we're going to make another bookmark because it's super fun to make bookmarks. You can always just expand it, make it wider for whatever dimensions you want. We're going to paint a wheat field or a cornfield and you can't tell which it is, so whichever you want it to be. Okay, so there'll be a nice little mountain background. This is going to be super easy and super fun. I have three watercolors today. I have a blue, an orange, and a yellow. You can use whatever blue, orange, and yellow you have. You don't need these specifically. I'll just let you know what they are. This is French ultramarine. This is cadmium orange, and this is Indian yellow. This is a warm yellow. If you have a warm and a cool, use a warm. This is a mix between cadmium red and cadmium yellow. It is just plain orange, and this is a warm blue. It tends toward red, and I'm using this one because if I use a greeny blue like Prussian, like I just tried, I end up with a green when I mix these two because this has a lot of yellow in it, and that's not what I want. So I have that. I have two brushes. I have a biggish brush and a little brush, and I have water, and I have my little palette. Um, This is 2 inches by 6 inches watercolor paper. You do not need to use specifically 2 inches by 6 inches. You can use whatever size you want. And I have a little strip of watercolor paper where I tested the first one and ended up with two green. So let's do this. Here's what I'm going to do. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to separate this in my mind in thirds. Like there's no traceable or anything. We're just going to do this. So here's about the bottom third, right? So about like that. And to the bottom third, I'm going to paint it with water. We're going to do wet and wet watercolor, which just means we're painting wet paint onto a wet surface. And so I'm wetting the surface. You do not want the water to pool. So you don't want too much water, but you want it to be pretty wet. Okay, and next I'm going to get some paint. And blue, good bit of it. Okay, and then into the blue, I don't want it to be this super bright blue. I want it to be grayed out. So if you think about the color wheel, across from blue on the color wheel is orange, which is why we're using orange. And what orange does is it will gray it. We don't want to use too much or we'll end up with green because this is a really greeny, it's a really yellowy orange, but it will gray it out so we don't have such a bright blue. So we don't want it too bright. There's a fine line between the color we want and green. Okay, that's perfect. See that? That's what I'm going for. It's a very gray-y blue color. And so I'm just going to paint this. I don't even really want it. I want it to look like clouds. So I don't even want it to be perfectly even. I'm going to paint it, oops, all the way down to this line. And if you go over the line a little bit, just do this and kind of pick it up at the edge because we're going to put yellow wheat down there and we don't want that to be too mixed. Now, this I want pretty light, but remember that watercolor dries lighter than it looks like it's going to be. So, but I don't want it to be perfectly even either because it's clouds. So just kind of going in here and dabbing so it's not perfectly even. So it's picking it up and then putting it in other places. You don't want this to look symmetrical. All I'm doing, you see, is just kind of dabbing so it ends up uneven. So let's do this as much as you want. Yeah, that looks good. And then we're going to let it dry thoroughly. My painting is dry. And now I'm going to add some mountains. I'm going to do the same thing that I just did, except I'm going to make it more potent. So I'm going to get, and I'm working wet paint on a dry surface too, so not quite the same situation. So I'm going to get a good bit of blue. I want this more potent, so I'm going to get more paint and have less water in it. Okay, I'm going to get a little bit of orange. I'm going to make sure this is a mix that looks actually pretty good, that I'll be happy with. Okay, so here's what I'm going to do. It's pretty potent. This is what this looks like, and remember, it will dry a little bit lighter. So I'm going to put in my first mountain. I'm going to say the first mountain starts here, and it's just going to be pretty smooth. Okay, just goes like that, and that's it. Okay, I'm going to paint a little bit down, and then I'm going to wet my brush. Clean it off. I have a little bit of water on it, not a ton. And I'm going to paint down because I don't want, you see how that's just kind of blurring it down some, because I don't want it to, I want it to be a gradient and not to be a hard line. So here is my first little mountain. And what I'm going to do now is dry it again. It's dry. And now I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to get more of this paint. I don't want a bunch of water on my brush. I want it to be pretty potent. Actually, I'm going to get a little bit more, just enough water really to activate it. Touch of orange to gray it. Clean this out some. Oop, way too much. So now I'll get more blue. Just find the balance. You don't need this exact color again. Find a balance you like. If anything, if you go a little bit darker, that's great, because this next one is closer. So that's going to be too dark. Mixing watercolors can be an adventure. I'll need a little bit more going down anyway, so this is all fine. Okay, let's see if this is the right color. I will want to, actually, that looks pretty great to me. Okay, so I'm going to leave this. And my reference. Okay, actually I'm going to do this number, putting some, I don't want it to be quite that dark, so yeah, so I'm adding a little bit of water down here, but leaving this up there. So I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to do the same thing with another mountain here. Goes, ooh, never mind. Let's try this. Nope, we'll just go with this dark. It just comes up like that. Okay. Just like that, and then it can be whatever shape you really want. I'm going to darken it some up here. Now I'm going to do the same thing that I did before. Cleaning off my brush, I'm going to paint this down. I want the line on the top, but I don't want the line down here. And so I'm just going to make this gradient like that. And then I bet you can guess what I'm going to do next. I'm going to dry it again. It's dry again, and now we're going to add some trees. I'm going to switch to my small brush, and I'm going to use this potent mix without much water. And I think it'll be potent enough, but we'll see. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to do from about here, but not going below this line. I'm going to do strokes up like this. These are not detailed trees. It's like that. They are just strokes up that tell us, hey, look, there are trees back there. If you want to go detailed trees, go for it. I don't think it's necessary because they're going to be so far away. Okay. And I go about down to this line. You can make some taller than others and some darker than others. Like that. You can do them all the same if you really want to. Okay. But we are just doing tall pointy guy there. Okay, and at the bottom, I'm going to do the same thing that I did before. I'm going to go, I'll use this brush again. Okay, I'm just going to go across here and fade it out a little bit. It's like that, because our wheat is going to overlap here. And I don't want a stark line. So this is water. I'm going to go down here and even blur this bottom part a little bit. It's like that. Okay. And then I'm going to dry it one more time. Okay, I'm going to do this wheaty bit or corny bit in 2 stages. First, I'm going to get yellow. I want potent yellow. I love this yellow. It's a nice goldy, warm yellow, and I really want it to be potent. So I don't have much water. I have a lot of paint. Ooh, look at that. And that will be so nice contrast. And here's what I'm going to do. With my big brush, I'm going to paint this. Okay, and go up about to this line like that. Okay. Then at the top, I'm going to do the same thing that I did before, but kind of just scribble in like this. There will be a line there. There might be a little bit of greening, but there shouldn't be a ton because of the blue and yellow we're using. Just like that. Okay? And then I'm going to add orange. This is still wet. I'm going to add orange to my yellow to make an orangey yellow. Want it still to be more yellow than orange. Test it. That looks pretty good. Put a little bit more water in it. Remember, it will dry lighter than it looks. So I'm going to use, that looks good. Okay, I'm going to use my little brush. Okay, I'm going to do streaks up. Okay, it's like this. They're not really even. They go up into the blue a little bit. Don't worry about overlapping that. Some can be darker than others. Let's go. There is wheat growing, and don't forget, just let it overlap a little bit. Little streaks going, which is probably hard for you to see right now. It shouldn't be a bunch of greening because of the way we did it. And go back over some of them just because we do not want an even coat on this. Okay, let's dry it one more time and see what it looks like, and we might end up adding more. Okay, so I'm almost done. I'm going to get some orange over here, okay, and dilute it a good bit, like a lot. Okay, let's see what this looks like. More. That looks good. Okay, so I just have diluted orange. These colors are not showing up. We got fancy new LED lights in all of the libraries, and that includes the Support Services Center. And this is all washed out. I'm gonna have to see what I can do about the color later. But let's see. So here's what I'm gonna do. I'm going to go in and just in some places, not everywhere. I'm just doing the little streaks. They are all vertical. That's the main thing of this diluted orange, just to add a little bit of interest. I don't want everything to be like just it's coated with paint. You can take some up into the blue. There we go. Oh, that looks so much more interesting with some orange in there. And I believe that is done. I think this looks fantastic. I imagine the picture over here will look brighter than this because the lights are really draining the color here. This is super vibrant and neat. Oh, so this is it. I will sign it. I'm not going to do it in paint this time. I'm going to grab a pencil and I will sign it down here. Do not forget to sign your work. You can sign it whatever way you want. So I'm going to sign my painting down here small. And yeah, here it is. I really like this. Now for the extra fun part, let's see how smooth our edges ended up. Ooh, ah, do it very slowly or you end up doing what I just did and pull up some of the paper. Always pull your tape away from your painting in case that does happen. So you're just pulling paper from the edge and not from the painting itself. So there we go, and just do it slowly. Ooh, this always looks so nice. Pulling off the paper. Okay, look at those edges. That is beautiful. So here is my wheat field bookmark. I think it looks neat. It was super easy to paint, and it's really pretty. It's a pretty bookmark. I hope you painted along with me today. If you did, please take a picture and send it into the library's social media. We love to see what you do. And thank you for joining me for Art Club this week. I'll see you next week and we'll make more art. Bye.